Good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome to all of you from Inspire One. My name is Balmiki Bhattacharya, and I am the subject matter expert handling the sales practice, and I lead the practice in India. Let me just begin by telling something about Inspire One, and I'm sure all of you are already logged in and you have gone through the instructions of the navigation to the webinar. If I am on page 4, let me give a quick small introduction about Inspire One as an organization. So we are a learning and development company and as well as consulting. We have been in business for close to the last 2 decades, and we basically work in the area of customized solution space. And the three partners that we represent, and these are exclusive partnerships that we represent in India, are TMI, which is for the OD and the performance enhancement piece. TAG International is a UK-based sales training brand, and we represent TAC in India, and that's for Salesforce development, acquisition, and sales management. And the third is our leadership practice, which is where we represent IBM. It also includes human capital management solutions, predominantly the assessment is related to leadership and engagement. Inspire One is also an organization of the Association for Coaching in this country. What are we going to cover in this webinar? Well, uh, we are going to cover the key insights into relevant financial and marketing techniques, which will help us to advise your channel partners. We look at some of the performance indicators and how do we achieve profitability by enabling our partners. And we are also going to look at our own channel management style and learn how to adapt to suit different partners. Well, the reason why we thought that we're going to do this webinar at this point of time is we have observed that typically people do their sales planning, their channel strategy, and the channel planning at the beginning of the financial year, which is April. Hence, we thought that this would be an opportune time to do this webinar. So these are the broad objectives, not necessarily in this order that we are going to cover, but the way that I have structured is that we are going to look at the definition of channel. We're going to look at considerations for deploying channel. Then we'll go to how do we source channel partners, and then we are going to go into the elements of management of channel partners. But there's a small caveat which I want to just let you know in the very beginning, that we shall do it in an encapsulated form owing to sheer paucity of time. Hence, this webinar is going to give you only an awareness level knowledge because the details are covered in our workshops that we do. So in a way, this is a teaser that we are doing. The details are definitely covered in the workshops that we do from time to time for our clients. So let's go ahead. And if you see the next slide, which is page number 6, I am at the slide which says the definition of marketing. Now, one may be constrained to ask as to what is this or why is this? Well, our channels are a part of our marketing strategy. Hence, it is very important for us to understand the definition of marketing in the first place. So let's attempt to give a definition of marketing. So this definition says that it's the management process. So when I mean management process, I mean it's a process where people who are in managerial roles are involved. A management process responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer requirements, and those requirements which are met profitably. So profitability is one of the key cornerstones of any marketing endeavor that any organization takes. So our channels form a part of our marketing strategy. Now let's go ahead. So once we have defined and we have looked at what marketing is, let's try and define what is a channel for the purposes of the webinar. So we define a distribution channel as a chain of business or intermediaries through which a good or service, a product or service passes until it reaches the end consumer. So it's basically a path by which the goods and services of products reach the end consumer. A distribution channel can include, and this is typically what is prevalent in India as well, and when I'm saying the names, rather the examples, they include wholesalers. So typically in FMCG we have wholesalers, retailers. In some of the white goods we have distributors. In some of the technology products we have resellers, and for some of the capital goods we have agents as well. So these are the various names that we give to the distribution channel. An interesting thing to note is that today even the internet is a very powerful channel that is emerging, and we have a whole lot of examples on that. Going ahead, one of the key considerations that people have very often that channel managers ask is that they are faced with the question as to when to deploy a channel and when to go direct. So if you go to page number 8, rather slide 8, there's an interesting slide. This slide basically makes an attempt to understand when should we go direct and when should we deploy a channel. If you look at the x-axis, I have given a term which means x-axis denotes the complexity, and the y-axis denotes the vitality of the customer, which means how important or how vital the customer is to our overall strategy. When I say our, I mean the overall strategy of the firm. So if I were to explain you this, if you look of the complexity axis, the products are on the right hand side. So products, typically the complexity increases from the left to right. Now it begins with supplies and peripherals, which are very mundane. Then it begins with a very standard product, and then it moves to customized solutions. So from just supplies and peripherals to customized solutions, the complexity of the product increases, and so is of customers. So on the y-axis I have put customers, the vitality of the customers. So the vitality of the customer depends on how important the customer is, or in other words, how vital the customer is to our strategic interest. So it begins with small corporates or individuals, as the case may be, then it goes on to mid-sized corporates, and then it goes on to large or key accounts. So that's the representation of the vitality. So if we were to make a locus of aid, or try to match which is the area where we should deploy a channel and which is the area where we should go direct, you will see that ideally we should deploy channels in those cases where the individuals, where the vitality of the organization is in terms of size, it is small, or it is more individualistic nature, and it is the product is more standard or mundane in nature, which is, let's say, typically supplies and peripherals. The more we increase the vitality and the complexity, which means the more we go towards the upside of the y-axis and the right hand side of the x-axis, which means making attaching a more importance to the size of the account, and making the product more complex, the more we should go direct. Now there is a reason why we need to do that, and there are some questions why we need to do that. We need to answer that. Well, if you were to look at this, then some of the questions that comes in your mind is that, okay, while this is a means of deciding when and where we would deploy a channel and where we should use direct, what are the underlying questions or criteria that we should keep in mind? Well, some of the factors that we should keep in mind is the channel partner's loyalty. Now, they may be divided, and the channel partner may sell your competitors' products into your product as well. So that's one of the criteria. That's one of the consideration when we keep in mind the product. Then secondly, they may not have the time or the skill to make the most of the opportunity or the relationship. So that's the second criteria. And the third is, does the does the corporate, just the product warrant any kind of special attention? So these are some of the questions that we should ask ourselves when we decide between going channel, or as to say, going to a channel or going direct with our offering. It has been observed that sometimes our channels fail because of the fact that this is not addressed to. So one of the key criteria, and I thought this was an important slide, and we must keep that in mind. Let's go ahead. The second thing that we need to keep in mind is also the product life cycle. And why the product life cycle is important? Well, uh, it is important to know that one of the key differences between a channel and a direct is that though they are different organizations, each within their own marketing strategy, which means they have their own marketing strategy, it is vital that the two are at least aligned, if not identical, so that we are going to have a mutually advantageous relationship. Because at the same time, I mean, after all, they represent our products or the firm's products and services in the marketplace, in fact in our marketplace only. So as such, both the channels put together, they form a part of the world's perception of you, your products and your brand. So while we keep this in mind while deploying a channel strategy, we also keep in mind the second fact, which is the product life cycle. Now we know about the product cycle life cycle, that the product undergoes several stages. So if I were to just show you, it starts with the product development, then comes the introduction of the product, then comes the growth phase till it reaches the maturity stage, and from there where it goes to a point of saturation and gradual or general decline. On the x-axis, I have represented time, which is the amount of time that the product lives in its entire lifetime, and on the y-axis, it's the sales. So if you look at the development stage, the sales are low, and so is at the saturation and declines stage. And we have got several examples of products. In fact, most of the products or services undergo this product life cycle. Some of the products are they reach the maturity and the saturation and decline much earlier, and some of the products it takes a longer time. So what is it that we do in development stage? We do the market research, we do the resource planning, we do the product R&D, and then we introduce the product with the launch and a high investment. Then the product grows, the growth of the product continues, so that if you see, the sales pick up immediately after the introduction stage. So beyond the introduction stage, in the growth state, you will see a lot of steepness in the sales curve. So that's where the product is growing till it reaches maturity, post which it starts showing a general decline till it reaches the time when it is fully saturated, and then it dies out. So at that stage, at the decline stage, when the product is approaching a phase out or modification, we need to rethink about our strategy. Now, it is important to keep in mind the channel that we deploy by keeping in mind the product life cycle also. And why is that? Because one of the questions that we need to ask is that where in the product life cycle should we be giving which product to your channel? For example, should we give it at the maturity stage? Should we give it at the developmental stage? Or should we give it at the growth stage? At the same time, also we need to ask, I mean, to see for ourselves, where in the cycle do the channel, which means the channel partners, do they want to get into your products? Well, typically they would want to get into your products in the introduction and growth, because that gives them a competitive advantage. But we also need to keep in mind that if they mess it up, then we lose the investment and they just wash off their hands saying that that's not their problem. So it's a critical balance that we need to strike at every point of time, to see that which is the stage in which we need to introduce our product. Going to the next slide, the second criteria or the second consideration is the 4 P's of marketing. So we have all read about the 4 P's of marketing, which is the place, the promotion, the price, and the product or the service. The decision of channel, whether to deploy a channel or whether to go direct, that is a consideration which rests upon the place criteria. So place is where we actually put the product, I mean, by how we put the product in the market. When it comes to the marketing mix or the 4 P's, we also need to keep in mind uh, the 4 P's, which is additionally represented in terms of the political environment, the economics of the product, the society in which they're operating, and the technology. Now, let me give you an example. Now, Apple has been a very, very successful product, but the Apple product doesn't have an Apple store in India. Well, that's a purely political reason because of the fact that the government of India does not allow these kind of companies to be present with their own stores unless you do 30% local sourcing. So since Apple does not do 30% of its sourcing in India, they are not I mean they do not have any Apple store present, so they are not directly present in this country. Though you get Apple phones in India, they are present through their resellers. So in this case, political environment is a decider or a criteria to decide to decide between the presence, the distribution between a channel or directly. So I just thought there's an example that I could quote. Going ahead, so let's look at what are the possible growth strategies. And when I say growth strategies, I would like to draw your attention to the slide number 11. And slide number 11 says on the x-axis we have products which are existing and new from the left to the right, and customers on the y-axis. So at the lower end of the y-axis we have existing customers, at the higher end of the y-axis we have new customers. So this lets us know that what could be the possible growth strategies that we can follow, and at what stage do we need to deploy a channel or we can go direct. So if you look at it, at that stage when we have our products which is existing or old, and we have our customer base existing, well, that is the best possible scenario where we can go for channels because it poses the lowest risk. And opposite of that is the quadrant which is diagonally proportional, which is the top right quadrant where it is written diversification, because of the fact that when we are selling newer products and when we are selling those newer products in newer markets, which means that the customers are new, we cannot afford to have only channel. So that if we have only channel, that it poses a high degree of risk. So at that point of time, we need to make a mix of our channel as well as go direct, because at this stage, as I said, the risk is very high. And again, though the risk is high for us, it offers a great opportunity for the channel. But in case the channel fails or it doesn't work, the channel partner may just wash off his hands away, and it's a loss of investment for us. So ideally, at the diversification stage, which is when we are launching new products into newer markets and newer customers, ideally we should go with both channel as well as directly go to the market. Okay, so let's go ahead. Now, the next question that we need to ask is that how do I source the ideal supplier? Now, I mean, how do I source the ideal channel partner? Now, there are two aspects to this. There are two perspectives that I can give you on this. One is how ideal are we as suppliers? And the second is how ideal is our channel partner? Now, a different way to look at this is, or one of the perspectives that I said is, that we should always try and look at things through the channel partner's eyes, because that's equivalent to understanding the channel partner's business. So the question that we need to ask is, then how good a supplier are we to work with? And there are many and different criteria that a potential channel partner will use to judge our company, or to judge the supplier. And generally, these can be broken down into 4 sections. So one is the product or the service offered. The second is the supplier company. The third is the support provided by us, and the fourth is the contract. So let's look at it one by one. So what is there in product or service? So product and services include their perception of, or how they weigh us having advancement in technology, or how current the technology is. What is the expected lifespan of the product that they would sell? Where does the product fit into the channel partner's existing range, and whether it is compatible? Any parts that are currently or evolving in terms of technology, or maybe some of the things are only in the ideation stage. Does the product that they are going to sell, does it conform to any kind of current standards? Is it technically approved? And of course, the things like appearance and the operational capability of the product. So these are some of the questions that they ask. Interestingly, when we do the workshops, we have a case study which highlights the fact that when a channel partner is being sourced, then what are the criteria? And this is one of the elements, and this is embedded in a case study. It also involves a lot of activities which the participants do to give them a sense of what could be the various elements in these 4 sections. The second is the supplier company, which is basically what does the what is the credibility of the supplier in the market? Does the supplier have a commitment to the product, or do they have a long-term agenda, or they are just a fly-by-night operator? How established are they? Are they profitable? What percentage of profit or market do they claim? And at the same time, does the supplier have resources to invest in R&D for future development of products? The third is the support provided. Now, support provided is multi-pronged. The support can be in the form of training, in the form of spares, in the form of revenue management, in the form of any kind of marketing support that they provide. Marketing support is a very, very big consideration, and a lot of my observation is at a lot of times I've seen FMCG companies providing a lot of support for the channel partners in terms of marketing. And at the same time, the fourth option is contract. So contract means the contractual obligation with which they are going to start the business, or the contractual deal in which they are going to get into. So that includes things like margins, the quality, the quantity, the terms of offer, and so on and so forth. The terms of offer would also include the credit terms, any kind of commitment to stock, any kind of customized products, any kind of legal implications if the product is not supplied, and so on and so forth. So this is what is the question that we should ask as suppliers, because we will tend to be evaluated on these by the channel partners. The second perspective is, can I equate, or can I weigh the capability of my potential channel partner? Yes, that's also possible, and we should ideally do that. Now, that I do via something known as a competitive analysis. So let me quickly show you what I have done in slide number 13. So what we have done is, we have made a selection criteria of how strong is the prospective partner. Now, the selection criteria, if you see, it's got 2 components. One is critical and one is desirable. Now, these criteria are something which is to be decided by the channel managers, and you can have your own. So for example purposes, I have stated some. So for critical, I have given specifications, which means meets general specifications. The second is price, which means they agree to the pricing on which they will sell. The third is the location or the distribution reach. The fourth is regulatory compliance. Regulatory compliance means for some of the products you need to follow, your channel needs to follow regulatory compliance. And the fifth is training. Training means training ability, whether the manpower is training worth, whether they are trainable. uh, just importantly, one of the things to notice is the regulatory compliance. In the pharma sector, some of the channel partners require regulatory compliance to be adhered to at all points of time, and if the channel partners do not adhere to the compliance guidelines, they actually lose the distributorship. So that's one of the critical points that we need to keep in mind. The second is the desirable. So we have one critical and one desirable. So desirable is delivery schedule, which means how often they will ask for the delivery, documentation, the ease of dealing. Are they easy to deal with, or they tough to deal with? Accessibility to the stakeholders, and do they use systems which is compatible with us? Which means, is the channel partners system IT compatibility with the supplier in sync? Now, if you see the next one or the next column, I have given a weighing factor. The critical criteria, or uh, of the selection criteria, the critical elements, we have given a weighing factor of 6 and above, because that's critical, and the desirable is 5 and below. In the next column, what we have done is we have given the ideal partner. So the ideal partner should be 100 in all of these. So once I put 100 in all of these, I'm going to weigh between prospective partner A and prospective partner B. So if I give a score to prospective partner A, let's say 80, if you look at the first row in third column, prospective partner A. So 80 is a score that I give on 100, and then I have a weighing factor of 10 for meeting specification. So for meeting specification criteria, I have given 80 as the score to the prospective partner A, where the ideal partner is 100, and that has a weighing factor of 10. So 80 into 10 is 800. So that's what is written. Look at the price. So if price is the second criteria, on a scale of 100, for the ideal partner I have given 120, and the weighing factor of price is 9. 120 into 9 is 1080. So similarly, for all other factors, the score is also given. Then comes the desirable. So similarly, for the desirable criteria also, the same score is given. So for prospective partner A, the score that I have arrived at is as a summation of the critical factors and the desirable factors. So critical factors total up to 4130, and desirable factors sum up to 2050. So the total score is 6180. At the same time, my prospective partner B has a score of 3950 in critical and 1940 in desirable, and therefore the total score is 5890. Now this clearly shows that if I were to somehow do an analysis of the strength of the prospective partner, and this seems to be very logical, I would rather choose prospective partner A, because prospective partner A clearly has a higher score than prospective partner B. So this is one of the ways when we can identify that which partner to go with. So going ahead, so when we are channel managers, what are some of our roles and responsibilities? Well, it is represented in 4 quadrants. The channel has various people in it. And who are the 4 people? So we have channel partner principals, we have customers or end users, we have channel partner personnel. We also have our own company and our own managers or bosses to manage. So with the channel partner, it is desirable that we become business consultant, a supplier, and a marketing advisor. To the customers, we are ambassadors of our brand. We are professional salespersons, and we are technical experts. To the channel partner personnel, which is their staff, we are trainers, we are sales managers, and we are friend. And to our own company manager and to our bosses, we are an economist, we are market researcher, we are planner, and we are recruiter. When we say we are recruiter, we recruit the channel, and that's why we are recruiter. Okay, I come now to slide number 15, which shows what are the various elements of management to manage a channel partner. So I have listed down 7 elements of management. The first one being relationship building, second one training, third one financial management, fourth one being motivation, and then we review, then we do partnership selling and coaching, and the last element is the leadership element. Now let's look at it one by one quickly. And when I say let's look at it, let me also tell you that this forms the very core of our program. In the workshops that we do, this entire 7 elements are done in detail via case studies, via activities, and via role plays. So I'm going to give you only a brief insight, a cursory view of it, because the details are possible only in the workshop, and since we are only giving a bird's eye perspective, we're going to give you only the brief look at it. Okay, so relationship building. Now this is a tool that we use, and this tool is known as the communication profiler. It is done extensively in the workshop via a case study as well as via syndicate activity in groups. The relationship building tool is important because, as we said, one of the first element is building relationship with the customer, or sorry, with the channel partner. This has two aspects, that is verbal as well as non-verbal. Now the underlying philosophy is that here we try to understand the personality of the channel partner or various people in the channel so that we can adapt to their personality and therefore improve our relationship with the channel partner. So clearly there are 4 styles that have emerged based on the axis of look and listen, and this is done quite extensively in the workshop. So look and listen is basically the verbal and the non-verbal portions of the way people communicate, because um, the philosophy is that if you communicate in a manner that the other party also communicates, you will be able to develop relationship better. So the 4 styles that come are the panther, the peacock, the dolphin style, and the owl style. These are the 4 styles of personality that typically our channel partners will have. And then when we are able to get these 4 styles, we also do a psychometric profiling, as a result of which the first thing that we are able to do is get our own style and then do an exercise in which we are able to assess the style of the partner so that we can adapt to the other person or the partner style for better relationship building. So this is the aspect of relationship building. The next aspect is training. Now training I have represented it as an entire cycle. So the training begins from identification of training needs, which is basically identification of what competencies and skills do we need to aim at to be improved, if we need to do any kind of assessment, and post assessment, what are the training objectives that we need to lay out. And then comes the preparation stage. So the stage 2 is preparation, where we define who's going to be the audience, what is going to be the subject, what is going to be the learning objectives, and the other administrative issues regarding it. And the preparation also includes the development of the content and as well as the practice for the training. The training can be done internally, it can be done outsourced also. A lot of times companies do outsource their training requirements for the channel partners. Then is the administration, which is basically the administration of the training, and then comes the delivery. So the training delivery is the actual workshop. Post the delivery, we also assess the learning, and therefore, and after that we review it. So learning assessment is basically done at 4 levels. So that's called the assessment of the learning from level 1 to level 4 on the Kirkpatrick model. We can go up to any level, level 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Generally, people go up to level 2 and level 3, but that's also reasonably okay. And then comes the time when we are reviewing the results of the training. So that's the full cycle of the training. The next is the financial management, very, very critical aspect of it. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important because of the fact that the more we understand the partner's overall business, the better channel manager we become. Typically, what I have observed is that the problem lies in understanding how much we understand the customers or the partner's business. Most of us understand only our business at the partner, not the partner's overall business. And by understanding only our business at the partner, we think that we understand the partner's business fully. But that doesn't happen actually. Okay, so what are the elements that we need to look at for financial management? Well, the first question, how profitable are they? So when we look at how profitable are they, we look at profits, we look at return on investments, we look at the return on sales. These are various ratios. And let me tell you that when we do the program in the class, we do it via a case study. We also do it via an activity where each of the participant, as part of their pre-work, are supposed to pick up one of their channel partners and get all these in the class. And in the class, then this is discussed. And the case study is embedded on the basis of these. So the first point is how profitable are they? The second is one moment, there seems to be a small tech glitch. The second is how good is the cash flow. So when I say cash flow, I basically refer to the current ratio and the liquidity ratio, which is generally two ratios that measure the cash health of the company. The third is how heavily are they financed by borrowing. So there we cover the capital gearing and the interest cover. We also measure how efficient are they. So in terms of measuring efficiency, we look at sales per employee, we look at overall sales, we look at profit per employee, and we also look at stock turnover or inventory turnover. And the last thing that it comes in financial management that we need to look at is that in case the company is listed, there are many cases when the channel partner is a listed company, should you buy shares in them? So when we decide upon this, we should look at criteria like the earning per share, the dividend that they are giving per share, and the simple price to earning ratio, the PE ratio. So various factors which measures the financial management. Now, interestingly, I know of some of the companies who actually manage these for their clients also, which manage these for their channel partners also. So I know for sure one of the tire companies and one of the FMCG companies that they help their channel partners by managing these for them. So that's a good instance to quote that if you really want to help your channel partner and you want to understand the business, these are the elements that you need to know. Okay, let's go ahead. So I am here on slide number 20, which looks at how do we motivate them. So when it comes to motivation of the channel partners, there are two things that we need to look at. So at one side, or the left hand side, I have the business motivators, and on the right hand side I have the personal motivators. Now my business motivators come from my rational needs and my personal motivators come from my emotional needs. We also go to a certain extent in deriving the Maslow theory of the hierarchy of needs and relating to this to the Maslow theory, and then deriving the business motivators and the personal motivators. The underlying message is that for each channel partner, do we understand what motivates that personal channel partner? I mean, that particular channel partner. Is he motivated more by business motivators, or is he driven more by rational needs, or is he driven more by emotional needs and thereby has more of personal motivators? So typically the business motivators are gain, means pure gain, saving the amount of money they're able to save, functionality or utility, safety and security. And the personal motivators are pleasure, loyalty, loyalty to the brand, ego of being associated with the brand, envy, and fear. Fear means fear of not being associated with the brand or fear of loss. So these are the aspects of motivation that we look at. So when we do the evaluation, we look at following criteria. So this is the review mechanism that we follow. So I've given 16 elements of evaluation. These are the 16 elements which we evaluate, and we can give a score also. And on the basis of this, we evaluate the performance of each and every channel partner. Now in the class, as I said, when participants come to the class, they are supposed to undergo a pre-work by taking a particular channel partner, that too in real life, which is the real channel partner that exists in the market. And when we do the evaluation, we do evaluation of that particular chosen channel partner on these 16 criteria. So a very interesting exercise, and uh, the participants get to understand whether their channel partner is actually performing or whether they're not performing. Let's go ahead. The next element of management is partnership selling and coaching, which is basically on the job coaching or on the job training. And the key areas for coaching that we have are, we sometimes we go with the channel partner into the market and decide and decide to coach them. So we just the elements of areas of coaching would be determine the call objective, outline that plan, and then find out who does what and when, and what at what stage do we need to intervene. How do we focus on the weaknesses at the time? Do we focus on only one weakness, or do we focus on several weaknesses at a time? And then we decide upon the action and monitor for improvements. Is there a right atmosphere? Yes. How do we give the right atmosphere? Uh, we need to give praise when due. We need to criticize in a balanced way, which is give critique, do honest assessments, and then in case we find we are wrong, we apologize, and then understand the fact that if we respect the individual is going to respect us back. In terms of being a channel manager and for developing the channel, is there a checklist that we can follow? Yes. So if you look at slide number 24, it gives us a checklist, and again here we have a 16-point checklist of what are the various channel development factors that we need to look at. This is definitely linked to the review, so this is in a way our self review as well. So every time we need to do a review of ourselves, we can follow this. The last element that we need to move is the leadership element, which means how do we provide leadership to the channel partner? So as a leader, we need to first define a value proposition that we are going to get from the channel partner, or that is what we are going to drive. So at stage one, I define the business value. At stage two, I define it specific to that particular partner. For different partners will have different business values. Then we create some measurable outcome and the ways to measure that. Fourth stage is we set expectations, and the fifth stage is we assure result or ensure that we get the results. One of the important criteria to look at is what is the leadership style that we have when it comes to managing our channels. It's an important thing because of the fact that all of us will have different leadership styles. When we do it in the class, we first do a profiling tool. The profiling tool actually tells you what is your own leadership style, and it's also a great insight into the fact that different people will have different leadership styles, and at the same time you also need to adopt different leadership styles for different type of channel partners. So let's look at it. On the y-axis I have got development as a criteria, and on the x-axis I have got motivation. So this says that a leader will typically have two broad based focus. One is the focus on motivation and the other is the focus on development. Now, if I were to put or derive my leadership style on the basis of the motivation axis and on the basis of the development axis, what could be my leadership style? So those people who are high on development and relatively low on motivation, which means they are highly focused on training, but they do not, they are relatively low focused on motivating the channel partner. Those people or that style is known as a developer style. The exact opposite of this, which is people who are extremely high on motivation but low on development, they are known as motivators. The third is people who are low on both, which is they are mostly administrative in nature, low on motivation as well as low in development. And the fourth is the mix of all these styles, which is basically the leader. Now, you as a channel manager may have either of the styles. I mean, you may be a developer, you may be an organizer, you have a motivator, and that clearly comes out in the profiling that we do. But the most desirable style we say is the leader, which means somebody who has got high development focus as well as high motivation focus. So this is understanding our style. Now, how do you use this to manage the channel partner? Let's go to the next slide, slide number 27. So here what we have done is we have given channel performance categories. Now to measure the performance, we have put again the channel partner into two axes. On the x-axis I have got effort, and on the y-axis I have got ability, which is to say that if I were to measure the channel performance or the performance of a channel partner, it can be measured on two axes, ability and effort. So ability is basically skill and effort is basically will. So this is also called the skill will matrix. So those channel partners who have high ability but relatively low effort, which means low will, they are known as coasters. Diagonally opposite of this is that category that is known as strivers. Now, who are the strivers? These are the people who are high in effort, which means high in will but low in skill. So they are called strivers. The third category is low in ability as well as low in effort, and they are called problem child. And the fourth category is the most desirable category, that is known as star. Now, who are the stars? Well, stars are the folks who are high in ability as well as those who are high in effort. Now, this is what your channel performance categories are, which means your channel partners will be in one of the four categories. How do you manage them? Do you have one style, one leadership style for all these four categories? Well, the answer is clearly no, because as we say, different strokes for different folks. So what style do you need to adopt for coaster? So the most recommended style for coaster is that you need to become a motivator. The most recommended style for a striver is that you need to become a developer. The most desirable style for a problem child is you need to become a leader. And the most preferred style or the desirable style for the stars is known as the organizer. So at all points of time, since you are going to face different channel partners who will have or who will fall under different categories, you will need to ensure that for each and every channel partner you adopt a different leadership style, whether it is motivator, whether it is organizer, whether it is a developer or a leader, that will depend upon the performance category to which your channel partner belongs. Yes, so that brings us to the end. Uh, I would be happy to answer any questions. We have about 6 minutes left. I already got a question, and the question is from from Mr. from Mr. Bhanu, and he asks that how do you what is the basis on which you do this relationship building? Well, as I told you, this is a profiler that we use, and on the basis of the profiler, it is done. The first thing that we do is we do a profiling assessment of each and every participant, so you get to know your style. The underlying philosophy is that if you know your style, you will be able to recognize the fact that everybody else also has a style. And then we do an activity on how do we understand the style of the other person, and what are the steps that we can take to adapt into each and every style, so that as an outcome, our relationship with that particular person who has a different style is better. The reason being very simple, and these are the three golden rules. The first golden rule is people have different styles. The second rule is people like to be communicated in their own style. And the third is that we need to adapt to the style of the other person. So it's an activity, a profiling tool plus an activity which is done in the class. Very interesting, I would say. I have also got another question, and this gentleman asks that is there a specific template in which you are able to do any conversation with your channel partners? Well, I would say the answer to that is yes, and we do that in the class. Um, since that would have made the webinar very elaborate, I have not included that. But yes, we definitely have a template. We have a tool by the name of Find Tool. We have a concept by the name of UAppeal, which is basically a tool of probing the channel partner and establishing the feature, advantage, benefit, and the UAppeal for each and every channel partner, which is what is in for them. And then we have a format of how to conduct any kind of conversation with the channel partner, which is oriented towards profitability. So we have a whole module for that also, and we spend extensive time on that. In fact, for some of the programs, out of the 2 days, one day is spent only on that, and that follows with a lot of role plays. So once you do the model, and then you put, once you do the module, you put the module into practice by doing role plays. So the workshop has psychometric, the workshop has profiling, the workshop has got your case studies, and the workshop has got role plays also to follow up. Okay, so I do not have any questions. I don't get any questions that I see anymore. So I would like to thank all of you for being a patient audience, and I hope to connect with you sometime in the future once again. Thank you so much, all of you, and have a good day ahead. Thanks. Bye-bye.